Well, welcome again, Dr. Evans and my brother, Pastor Bobby Gibson. We welcome you all to this time with our KEP pastors, and this is sort of a special edition that we wanted to come and have Dr. Evans to address pastors specifically around the issue of the tragic death of George Floyd, this African-American man who lost his life tragically at the hands of a police officer. And we are seeing on TV the uproar that's in Minneapolis, the community. And we know that many leaders have come out and have been speaking out. Let's just address specifically as it relates to pastors, how pastors, Dr. Evans and Pastor Gibson, how pastors can lead during this time of so much racial tension in our communities, and what would be a message to them specifically during this time that you would have to share?
I think, first of all, we've got to understand that God is a God of both righteousness and justice. Psalm 89 says, from his throne comes righteousness and justice. So we not only want to have a moral stand of what's right and wrong, we want to have an equitable stand of God's application of God's moral law in society. And so to speak out on injustice is a responsibility for pastors, white, black, Hispanic, whoever you are, because that is a biblical mandate. Unfortunately, sometimes we choose righteousness or justice when those are twin towers in God's kingdom. So we must articulate God's view, but we must also do it in a spirit of love. In other words, our goal must always be correcting and healing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we want to correct but not heal, or heal without correct. And you have to do both at the same time. The Bible calls us speaking the truth with love. And people need to know that we will not compromise the truth when we see what clearly looks like an unjust act that occurred in Mr. Floyd's life. But at the same time, we're going to promote not that which destroys a community or destroys progress, but we're going to promote that which will bring healing in the midst of this storm, because it definitely is a storm.
It sure is. Thank you for that. And just as an opportunity, Pastor Gibson, we shared even before this broadcast, Dr. Evans, you and I, we all three of us, we have boys, we have men now who are having to live in this space of the racial inequities that we're seeing and the injustices. What would you say, Pastor Gibson, to pastors leading men, but also those of us who have sons during this time?
Well, it kind of hit home for me because I have three sons, and a couple of them been a part of the system. You know, you guys know my testimony. I have a son that was incarcerated. So, but one thing I think about is that I share with them, you know, the Bible said we can be angry, but sin not. We're angry. I mean, because of what Pastor said, it's unrighteous, it's wrong. But we're not to sin. We're not to have two wrong. But we should speak out, though, whenever we have an opportunity to speak out in whatever venue we're in. They need to hear our voice, calling wrong, and calling right. So I call my boys, just, man, you have to be really, really careful in this day we in, you know, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the truth. That's just reality. So yeah, I was tell Pastor, you talking to men, you know, you don't be angry, don't you know, they need to express their feelings, but at that point, you know, like Pastor said, especially we that know the Lord, we have to be godly, but to not be angry, that's not even possible.
Yeah. And it is tough not to be angry when you see these type of images with our African-American men. But Dr. Evans, would you close us out with a word of prayer? We know the book of Amos, the 5th chapter, says, "Let justice roll down like a mighty stream." It is our prayer as leaders in our communities, in our congregation. Men are looking to us for leadership, for spiritual support and spiritual guidance. Do you mind praying for our pastors, specifically around this issue of racial reconciliation We know that you recently, several years ago, released a book, Oneness Embraced. And so we certainly would offer that as a resource for pastors during this time. But we know that prayer can heal all wounds. And so whisper a word of prayer for us, Dr. Evans, as we close out this segment.
Dear Lord, we just pray for the healing of our land, starting with the healing of our churches, which means the healing of our pastors.
Yes.
May we be what we're calling society to become. May we not just pontificate it from the pulpit, but engage a pew that takes righteousness and justice seriously, but that does so Christ-like and Christocentrically, bibliocentrically, who speak the truth, but with a heart that seeks to bring resolve and not just to express rage. So Lord, we pray that you will give wisdom to each pastor in their context to be as effective as they can in being repairers of the breach between us and you, and between people across racial lines, between police and community. Would you begin to heal the breaches that have worn thin as we see these acts that need to be corrected? But Lord, may we understand that we can't fix the culture if you are not free to fix the church.
Yeah.
Start with us and then invade the culture through us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for that.